What's up, gamers? Hi, Guardians, and hello, Internet. Welcome to another SloopGaming video. Today, Bungie has dropped Dev Insights Season 22 Weapons Preview. Let's take a look. Dev Insights Season 22 Weapons Preview. Today's Wednesday, August 16th in the Lord year of 2023. Happy Wednesday, Guardians. We got a new Dev Insights article dropping in hot today, this time diving deeper into what the world of weapons will look like in Season 22. From the highly coveted Monte Carlo catalyst to overall balancing philosophy, here is a breakdown of what players can look forward to when the next season drops. First up, let's look at balancing. Weapon balancing. Hello everyone, Weapons team here with you to look forward at Season 22's Weapon Balance Pass. But first, something different. A look back at the mid-season Balance Pass. This is something we haven't done before, but in the future, we hope we can do it more often. We'd like to take a quick glance at how the sandbox looked in the couple of weeks leading up to the mid-season Balance Pass, and then compare that to how it changed in the weeks following it. Hopefully this gives you a clearer picture of how things have shaken out and what we may be looking at tuning in the future. Below we have a few different charts representing high skill PvP from the 2 weeks before patch released, showing usage on the x-axis and kills over expected, a measure of effectiveness we use that shows whether a weapon is over or underperforming given its usage on the y-axis. On the top we have the all-up combined numbers for the primary weapon types. You can see that hand cannons are slightly edged out in usage by pulse rifles, but are the most effective weapon type holistically, excluding Vex Mythoclast up in the top left corner. Shakes fist. Underneath that, we have the top 50 weapons broken out individually. So feel free to take a look at this chart. Basically what the chart is going to represent, without diving too deep into that, I'll let you do that at your leisure, is that when Bungie implements these changes, obviously there'll be a deviation away from using them because their effectiveness will not be on par as to what Guardians expect. So therefore they will switch their weapons, their loadouts, what have you, and then that will shift the usage numbers, if you will, and that's what these charts are going to reflect. The breakdown shows that the Immortal made up a high percentage of not only primary weapon kills, but also submachine gun kills specifically, and the effectiveness was still elevated higher than we would want a weapon that far up on the scale to be. You can also see the Messenger Adept elevated to the right, no time to explain, nearly dead on the line for kills over expected, and Graviton Lance sitting slightly negative. The news that we were going to nerf them preemptively began their moves downwards compared to the chart we showed in the mid-season preview, as some players began to experiment with other options in preparations for the changes. So that's exactly what I said. Now let's take a look at the charts from the weeks following the patch, again from high skill PvP. And again, feel free to drill down on these at your leisure. I'm going to put a link in the description. Note, for those who are curious, the dot just under Jade Rabbit is Shayora's Wrath Adept, just missing the label. You can see the difference. A few weeks in the patch have made hand cannons have moved upwards, while pulse rifles and SMGs have both trended downwards overall. Most importantly, there hasn't been any large shifts in effectiveness in either the positive or negative direction, which can potentially come from nerfing or buffing things too much and would indicate comparative imbalance between the main primary weapons. On the top 50 weapons chart, Immortal Adept still reigns supreme for the moment, but the usage has decreased without a corresponding increase in effectiveness. This primes the weapon for our move into Season 22, where its effectiveness will be further impacted by the damage fall off and zoom decoupling. Rose and Ace of Spades have surpassed no time to explain in the Messenger, and while Graviton Lance remains elevated in usage, the near even effectiveness indicates that it is, at present, no longer a balanced concern. You can also continue to see why we have been keeping an eye on Vex Mythoclast, which is widely effective compared to other primary weapons. In here, just for comparison's sake, we have additional charts, this time from all skill PvP, with all primary weapon types in the top 50 weapons. These charts show that there's a solid balance among the mid-range weapons in terms of effectiveness heading into Season 22 with nothing notable out of hand. Now, I'm just going to say this right now. Like, I think it's great transparency that they put these numbers up right here. But to be honest with you, to throw that into the beginning of the blog, I think it's kind of boring, right? Like nobody, like I'm here to like read the blog and get the core information. You can just give me the TLDR in the beginning, Bungie, X guns up, Y guns down, yada yada yada, and then say please refer to the chart below or the chart at the end. The average Guardian is not going to sit here and drill down and do an empirical in-depth review of what these charts and numbers reflect. They just want to know what's buffed, what's nerfed. This is the data that's come out. I appreciate the charts. I'm sure a lot of Guardians do, but this just kind of like it kind of stalls the read, right? So that's why I'm happy to put this video out. Again, I'm not going to sit here and drill down on the specific chart. I'll leave that up to you guys, but just listening to the angelic tones of my voice, read this over. It gives you Guardians who are quick, busy, on the go, just an opportunity just to get the information and then make a decision for yourself, whether to go left, right, up, down, or sideways. A couple of interesting things to note: hand cannons are comparatively much less effective when we add the lower skill levels back into our analysis. And if we remove high skill from the equation, their effectiveness is negative. And instead, the exotic auto rifles are the ones highest up the chart. That is a good indication that we should keep a close eye on auto rifles, especially given most of them will be receiving a buff to range in Season 22. That said, we saw on the high skill chart that they tend to drop dramatically in effectiveness as you get into the higher skill brackets, where peak shooting and playing cover is ubiquitous. As always, we will keep our eyes on the numbers and our ears peeled for feedback from the community on how things feel, and we'll be out there playing alongside of you. Now, let's get into what you expect from weapons in Season 22. Again, they could have just put this stuff at the end just to refer. It kind of like, I don't know, it kind of just like puts a weight on you before you get into the meat and potatoes of the article, you know? So Season 22 weapon balance changes global. A while back when we made the swap to infinite primary ammo, it intentionally generated a bug that caused running double special weapons to drop heavy ammo at an increased rate. While we find some applications of double special to be interesting, particularly builds utilizing special weapons with custom ammo economies like trace rifles and Forerunner, providing a flat-out benefit to ammo was negating the trade-off of running double specials. PvE kills with 2 special weapons equipped now generate heavy ammo at the same rate as 2 primaries or 1 primary and 1 special. Okay. We are continuing our mission to improve communication behind our hipfire reticles with a few quality of life changes. So that's it. So that's the only comment on special weapon ammo. PvE kills with 2 special weapons equipped now generate heavy ammo at the same rate as 2 primaries or 1 primary and 1 special. I don't like that, man. I'm sorry. I don't like that. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Reticles, we are continuing our mission to improve communication behind our hipfire reticles with a few quality of life changes. Replace the perk active hipfire reticle element. The new one should work better at different field of view settings. Added a perk active indicator to symmetry. Move Grand Overture's charge meter further down the screen to reduce instances of overtapping other reticle elements. Zoom and damage fall off tuning. In case you missed it in the mid-season patch, we are making some major changes in the way zoom and damage fall off interact. The 3 main goals: decrease the variance between the optimal engagement ranges of our mid-range weapons, auto rifles, pulse rifles, and hand cannons, to reduce the instances of one weapon or another being clearly advantage choice based on minor differences in engagement distance. slightly reduce the average engagement range in Crucible by pulling in the maximum damage fall-off distances of many weapons, prevent individual weapons from overstepping their intended engagement ranges because of the multiplicative scaling zoom provided to damage fall-off. This in turn allows us to buff the weapon archetypes themselves, since we no longer must be concerned about the top-end outliers. I just want to say this, like, this is great information, right? But the average Guardian is gonna skim right by this, right? Like, if you go into your friends list in your clan, right? When you talk to your friends, no one is speaking like this, right? Especially PvP mains out there. Like, don't be giving you like, yeah, like the zoom sucks, right? Or it's not as effective at long range as this. I even as someone like myself who speaks to a lot of different Guardians from different backgrounds on both sides of the coin, PvE and PvP, I don't hear the language used such as in this article in our conversations. Now, I know this is an article and it's from the dev's perspective and they're being very specific, but, and again, I appreciate the transparency. A lot of this is just, I think a lot of like this language in this delivery is just going to fall on deaf ears, but it's information, so let's continue. Number 3, prevent individual weapons from overstepping their intended engagement ranges because of the multiplicative scaling zoom provided to damage fall off. This in turn allows us to buff the weapon archetypes themselves, since we no longer must be concerned about the top end outliers. To do this, we're going to be enforcing something called range compression, where the highest achievable damage fall off range on almost all weapons has been reduced to some extent. Certain weapons have been reduced more than others. Then, in many cases, the lower edges of the damage fall-off ranges have been brought upwards. Before we jump into that, let's take a moment to explain what Zoom does and how it interacts with damage fall-off. Up until Season 22, the Zoom stat has always provided 4 positive benefits when aiming down sights. Scales damage fall-off distance, scales aim assist fall-off distance, increases accuracy, reduces recoil. As of Season 22, we have removed the first benefit from that list. All right, so it'll no longer scales damage fall off distance. So the zoom stat will no longer scale damage fall off distance. It will still continue to provide the other benefits. In its place, we have a new stat called the ADS, aim down sights damage fall off scaler, which we have applied to all weapons that can experience damage fall off. Note, the following goes into deeper detail than some may desire digging into. If you want to go ahead and skip all the numbers mumbo jumbo, feel free to break down into the weapon archetype section. Thank you very much. I mean, as I'm reading this, I mean, listen, again, I'm going to say this. I appreciate, as an astute Guardian, the information, but the average Guardian, even the average like PvP main, everything that we've read up to this point is like, it's still mumbo jumbo, right? Like putting the charts out there, your average Guardian like doesn't care about this. What this is for like the 1%ers and the hardcore active PvP players, or just like, you know, the uber astute Destiny player that just wants to like get a, you know, learn more of what happens behind the scenes from the devs' perspectives. Again, this transparency is awesome. It reads well, right? But I'm just saying, like, the attention span of the average Guardian, you know, for them to flat out state, if you want to go through the mumbo jumbo, it's just funny because that's everything that I was saying leading up to that sentence right there. But we're going to go ahead and read it because that's what we do here at SloopGaming. Prior to the end in Season 1, the ADS damage fall-off distance was formulated when you aim down sights by multiplying the base damage fall-off distance, the distance at which your weapon experiences damage fall-off when hip firing, by the zoom of that weapon. From Season 22 on, the ADS damage fall-off distance will be formulated by multiplying the base damage fall-off distance by the ADS damage fall-off scalar stat value. Below, you will find a handful of tables that will explain the changes and their effects on the various weapon archetypes. The first table shows the current zoom values for weapons at their base and the rangefinder in comparison to the new ADS damage fall-off scalar value. Below that, we have a comparison with the Season 21 damage fall-off start distances with and without rangefinder for all primary weapons, and then their values in Season 22 with the new changes. Then, we also have the comparison data for special weapons, which have all been tuned to keep them mostly in line with where they are currently, except where it is noted. We do not expect these values to be final, but we wanted to start the mid-range weapons on a more even footing than they have been in the past. Keep in mind, even with their damage fall-off start values being similar, weapons will perform differently once their damage fall-off begins. As they currently do in the live game, rifle-style weapons will experience fall-off more gradually, while handheld ones will experience it more quickly. But the differences should be much less extreme. In addition, we have also tuned a small list of exotics and all special weapons with the intention of keeping them near where they are in the live game, as opposed to allowing them to receive substantial buffs or nerfs with these overarching changes. And we'll share those details below. Decoupled damage fall off from zoom. Added a fixed ADS damage fall-off scalar to all guns with damage fall-off. In general, this matches the standard zoom value for the weapon type, with some exceptions as seen below, bolded. So here's an example. I'm not going to read through all of them, okay? But weapon type sidearms, base zoom 1.2. Base zoom plus rangefinder zoom 1.32. The new ADS damage fall off scalar 1.2. Okay. SMGs, it looks like a lot of the bases are mimicking the new ADS fall off scalar. And then they're also throwing in what the current live action base, what the base zoom is with the rangefinder zoom. And then you can compare that to what the new ADS damage fall off scalar is. So a couple slight deviations here. You know, you're looking at two. Here's with SMGs. You know, it's 14 basis points. Yeah, they're pretty. They're significant. I'll let you guys decide. What do you think of these numbers? For those of you that are interested in the chart, let me know in the comment sections below. Once we choose the new values for the ADS damage fall-off stat for each weapon, we went through and updated the base damage fall-off values to fit into the new scheme, thus allowing players to invest into the range stat to offset some of the reduction caused by the loss of higher than average zoom. Range as a stat is much more easily acquired on most weapons than zoom is, so this allows more weapons to get closer to the maximum values that were previously only achievable with high base zoom or rangefinder, without allowing any of them to reach or exceed what the previous maximums were. In the case of aggressive hand cannons, with the base ADS damage fall-off scalar moving up to 1.5x, they were far too rangy, so we had to decrease their top end damage fall-off a small amount. They still come out positive on the exchange compared to their base behavior before. Rebalance the base damage fall-off start on several weapon archetypes to account for the new ADS damage fall-off scalar values. Sidearms increased at 100 range by 1.2. SMGs increased at 0 range by 1.3, increased at 100 range by 0.8. Auto rifles increased at 100 range by 2.5. Aggressive hand cannons decreased at 100 range by 1.0. Pulse rifles increased at 100 range by 0.5. ADS fall off start distances in meters 0 to 100 range stat Again, I'll let you guys dissect this chart. Let me know in the comments below if you see any like significant deviations from the bait zoom in season 21, the base plus rangefinder zoom in season 21, and now the new base ADS modifier in season 22. Just a quick glance right here. I'm just going straight from base to here, so 1320 to 1680. Okay, 12 to 2240, 1442 to 2352. Yeah, there's definitely movements in the numbers. How these are gonna feel and play out, I mean, it remains to be seen, right? Anytime something is buffed, nerfed, adjusted, we got to get it in play. So once season 22 starts, especially those PvP mains out there, let me know how you feel. Get back to me on my socials. I'd love to engage the hardcore PvP community that's a lot more knowledgeable than myself, and how these numbers are playing out for you in season 22. So keep in touch. Example of how this works. An adaptive hand cannon with a range stat of 70 would have previously had its damage fall off start at 31.2 when ADS, or 34.3 meters if it had rangefinder. Now, regardless if it has rangefinder or not, the damage fall off starts at 33.5 meters when ADS. So again, I think this is a good TLDR right here, okay? So an adaptive hand cannon with a range stat of 70, okay, would have previously had its damage fall off start at 31.2 meters when you're aiming down sights, or 34.3 meters if you were ADSing with rangefinder. Now, regardless of whether it has rangefinder or not, the damage fall off starts at 33.5 meters when you're aiming down sights. Okay, so Bungie's trying to do is that there's let's get rid of the rangefinder because it swings weapons way too far in a direction that they're uncomfortable them performing in the sandbox at. So this new system that they're implementing, the ADS modifier in season 22, is basically they're trying to find a sweet spot for aiming down sights, which each of the weapon archetypes. And again, they go into the special weapons here. Okay, again, take a look at this chart. Let me know how you feel about these numbers. But ultimately, we're gonna have to wait until season 22 to really see how the weapons feel, and how this new ADS modifier is gonna play out in the Crucible. Custom tune exotic ranges. Like the special weapons above, these have been set up to keep the weapons near where they currently are, as opposed to massively buffing or nerfing them with the overarching range tuning. Ace of Spades. When Memento Mori is active, previously had a 10% damage fall off range penalty. This penalty has been increased to 15%, a slight nerf to offset the buff it got in the neutral state. Devil's Ruin. When firing the laser beam, previously had a 20% damage fall off range bonus. This bonus has been reduced to 10%, a slight nerf to offset the buff it got in the neutral state. Revision 0. When Hunter's Trace is active, now has a 4.5 ADS damage fall off scaler. The Last Word now has a 1.1 ADS damage fall off scaler. Crimson now has a 1.3 ADS damage fall off scaler. It previously had an intrinsic 5% fall off range penalty. This has been removed. Vex Mythoclast now has a 1.5 ADS damage fall off scaler. Forerunner now has a 2.0 ADS damage fall off scaler. Ariana's Vow now has a 2.4 ADS damage fall off scaler. Woo! That was a lot of info, and if you're still with us or you just skipped it all, I think most of you skipped it all. Let's get into the more standard fare for weapons balance update. Weapon archetypes. Hand cannons. We have heard the complaints that hand cannons feel underpowered in PvE. Yes, they do. And we wanted to address that while also giving them a better use case to fit their hard-hitting fantasy. We decided that it made sense for them to be big game hunters of primary weapons, so we have massively increased the damage they deal to major combatants. Additionally, without investing in reload speed or perks that auto-reload, hand cannons have often felt too punishing of missed shots or running out of ammo at critical moments. We buffed their baseline reload speed in a way that filters upward to be a buff for all hand cannons. Although it's a smaller buff as you get to higher levels of the stat, we also built a new hand cannon subfamily for the first time in a while, adding heavy burst to the list of intrinsic traits. Warden's Law will now deal increased precision damage, but it comes with the challenge of needing to land 2 bullets on target instead of 1, providing an extra reward for players that have great aim. General, increased reload speed at 0 stat by 15%. PvE damage, increased damage against minor combatants red bars by 20%, increased damage against major combatants orange bars by 75%. Heavy Burst, change Warden's Law to be the first member of a new subfamily, Heavy Burst. Fires a 2-round burst. Bows, as we mentioned previously, bows have had an issue with hit registration at longer ranges due to the velocity of the projectile, sometimes preventing them from registering as hit scan. We have increased the base velocity of precision bows and brought lightweights up to match, which has done wonders for how they feel at a distance. We've also increased the maximum speed that the reload animation can play out, and that the reload perks and scalers will continue to have an effect even at high stat levels. General, reduce the minimum reload animation duration from 0.5 seconds to 0.3. This means that applying reload speed scalers on top of a high reload stat will still have an effect. Increase the projectile velocity at full draw so that the projectiles will continue to perform as if they were hit scan at longer distances at higher frame rates. Lightweight bows, equalize the full draw projectile velocity with precision bows. SMGs corrected a long-standing visual bug that prevented the RPM stat from displaying correctly. This does not change the actual RPM of the weapon. They have always fired at 720 RPMs. Aggressives, fix the RPM stat display to correctly show 720 RPM. Sidearms, when we changed the range values for sidearms, it became apparent very quickly that aggressives with their current extremely forgiving body shot to kill time were far out of band. We have reduced their base damage so they can no longer kill in 3 bursts of only body shots, making them less forgiving in exchange for the increased damage fall off distances they receive. Aggressives, reduce base damage from 32 to 30. Pulse rifles, the BXR Battler never felt right with its zoom not at 20. Now that it will no longer be a balance concern in terms of engagement ranges, the time has come to pull it back to where it belongs. So BXR Battler increased zoom back to 20. Okay. Shotguns fixed a visual bug that was causing the impact stat to display incorrectly. This is cosmetic only, damage per pellet is unchanged. General, fix the impact stat on the comedian. Fusion rifles, players have noted that the enhanced intrinsic perks and adept masterworks felt like they were making their fusion worse by reducing the damage per bolt. We made a change to prevent that from happening and allow those alterations to strictly improve the weapon as intended. General, fix an issue where adept masterworks and enhanced intrinsic perks were decreasing the damage dealt by fusions when they changed the charge time stat. Wave frame heavy grenade launchers. It always feels bad to kill yourself with a slightly misplaced heavy shot, so we have reduced the lethality of these weapons to the user so that you can be a little bit less careful when using them. General, the size and damage of the self-damage AoE is now reduced. This should make it much safer to fire the projectile closer to your feet. Swords, at present, swords don't hold much value to players because, although they excel in ease of use and are ammo rich, they require users to put themselves directly in harm's way. Sword Guard could mitigate this, but the guard's duration is difficult to predict with incoming fire and disables the sword's primary means of offense, the fully charged heavy attack. The guard also mitigates a very small amount of damage when compared with our other existing defensive option, the glaive. Further, while numerous sword guard related perks are already in place within the game, they don't see much play. So we decided to undertake a rework with the aim to increase the viability of blocking, to advance on enemies, increase the value of sword guard related perks, as well as allow guardians to use their fully charged heavy attacks more often. Our intent is that swords now occupy a niche where they provide both better slaying power and survival. Sword Guard. Energy now recharges after a short delay when used, but recharges much faster. Both delay before recharge and the recharge rate are both governed by the guard charge rate stat. The delay ranges between 2.7 seconds and 1.5 seconds, decreasing with charge rate stat. We've massively increased the rate energy returns after the delay to compensate, and they increase even more at higher charge rate stats. Even after the delay, swords now return to full energy from empty faster than before this rework. Now, just to say this, swords are definitely fun to use, and unless you're using like specific exotics or building into sword play, the biggest problem with swords is that, especially against bosses with the common stomp mechanic, you're either getting booped away, okay, and then you have to re-engage, which just lowers the TTK and the engagement, and you have to deal with anything else that's hitting you, or the stomp mechanic will just one hit you. So it's like using a sword like on a boss isn't necessarily the most viable thing to do, right? In some instances it is, right? But there's just a hesitancy, I believe, on the community to use swords because, as it's stated in the article, going in for CQ, you know, close quarter combat, it's just very difficult to, you know, mitigate any type of damage dealt to you while applying damage with a sword. What do you guys think? What are the best encounters out there to use a sword strat, either solo or with a team? I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. And do you think any of the changes that we're reading here today are going to make activities in the game where swords don't have a place, have a place? Let me know in the comments below. Full power heavy attacks can now be used with any non-zero amount of sword energy rather than requiring full sword energy. Okay. We massively increased sword guard damage resistance, giving it between 82.5 and 95% damage reduction, depending on the guard resistance stat. This damage resistance value is sharply reduced against other players like glaives. Then it provides between 52.5 and 65% damage reduction, depending on guard resistance stat. Sword Guard no longer loses energy when taking damage. Oh, that's fantastic. As a result of the above, guard efficiency has been removed as a stat. All right. Sword Guard duration is now increased across every guard type, and those with shortest durations benefiting most. Sword Guard talent nodes have had their stats squished down. Combined with the above, even though their stats have been reduced, their damage reduction, charge rates, and guard durations are now increased across the board. This allows origin traits and other sword perks more room to increase these stats and allow performance beyond their previous maximum. Sword Guard talent nodes now visually affect the charge rate bar on the inspection screen when you hover over or select them, similar to other stat affecting nodes. Sword movement speed while blocking has increased from 0.75x multiplier to 0.85x multiplier. The Lament exotic sword has been a special case, so its charge rate and delay are unaffected, but it still benefits from the increased guard damage reduction and duration. Okay, good. I thought they were going to say that they were going to be adjusting the Lament. I love that weapon. Exotic weapons. The Monte Carlo. We finally did it. It was mechanically the most complex catalyst we have ever done, requiring a host of custom animation work and a lot of things we have never done on a weapon before, but we hope you enjoy it. All right, let's take a look at this. Wow, we can use it as a bayonet now. Oh, wow, let's take a look at that again. And you see bayonet locked. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. For years, the community has always said, you see that bayonet at the end of Monte Carlo, how come we can't use it as a melee weapon? Now we can. So awesome job, Bungie. Good job, man. Quicksilver Storm. Players have been reporting that it felt like the ammo was not being loaded into Quicksilver Storm at the correct time. We investigated and discovered a misalignment with the animation in the ammo loading that has been corrected. Fixed an issue where ammo was loading into Quicksilver Storm slightly too late in the reload animation. It did feel like that. Dead Man's Tail fixed the displayed impact stat. This is cosmetic only. Damage per bullet is unchanged. Two-Tailed Fox reworked the catalyst perk Third Tail. The performance of this weapon was just a little bit off, so we have changed it to fire the third rocket following the second rocket instead of at the same time, which helps it lean harder into the Three Tails fantasy. Two-Tailed Fox now fires a 3-shot burst with the catalyst instead of firing 3 rockets in a 2-shot burst. Okay. Virgulus Curve. We have fixed an issue where if Whisper of Fissures gets the kill, it does not count for Hail Barrage stacks. We've also buffed the weapon performance in PvP when using Hail Barrage. Whisper of Fissures detonations now generate Hail Barrage stacks if the stasis crystal was created by this weapon. Shiver Quiver now activates when slowing enemies. We've increased these slow stacks from 40 to 60 when hitting players directly with Hail Barrage arrows. This allows for a freeze if 2 Hail Barrage arrows hit the same player. Le Monarch. Lemon has long been a thorn in the side of many high-end PvP players. The massive chunk damage hit hard and the long damage over time, the dot, duration kept you out of the fight for what felt like an eternity. We have decided to address both facets of this problem and at the same time by shifting Lemon to use the same damage profile as a lightweight bow. It now deals 85 on impact to the body and 136 to the head against players. We have also reduced the dot duration from 3 seconds down to 1.75, which makes it feel significantly less painful to be hit by this weapon. The dot deals the same total damage as before against players, divided into 6 ticks instead of 8, but we have increased the dot damage in PvE by 50%. In PvE, this should result in a slight DPS increase, with the reduced impact damage being offset by the faster draw time and increased DOT. Reduced draw time from 684 to 612, reduced body shot damage from 100 to 85, increased critical hit multiplier from 1.5 to 1.6, crit damage against players goes from 150 to 136, changed the poison dot effect, reduced poison dot duration from 3 to 1.75 seconds, moved from 8 damage ticks to 6, but poison deals the same total damage to players. Poison damage increased in PvE by 50%. Vex Mythoclast. It only took me 70 plus tries to get this damn weapon. How about you, Guardian? Vex Mythoclast has been very, very strong in PvP for some time, having secretly benefited from a number of buffs to auto rifles that have increased its usability. With auto rifles getting another bump to range in Season 22, we felt that Vex had been pushed up a notch too far in our playtest. We reduced the RPM from 300 to 360 to match other auto rifles in its subfamily. At the same time, we wanted to make sure that this was not a DPS decrease in PvE, so we have increased its damage to compensate. Thank you, but I'll tell you what, I haven't fired it, but I don't think the Vex is gonna feel the same. That's kind of like my gut feeling. Let me know how you guys feel. Increased damage against minor combatants red bars and major combatants orange bars by 25%. Okay. Tommy's matchbook. The previous setup wasn't working as expected. No, it was not. So the new behavior gives the same end result, but front loads more scorch onto the base behavior. Uploaded scorch value. It was previously 14 plus 7 with the Ember of Ashes fragment equipped. Now it's 15 plus 5. All right. Okay, so it was previously 14 plus 7, so that's 21 with the Ember of Ashes fragment equipped. Now it's 15 plus 5, which is 20. All right. What am I not understanding here? Moving on. Touch of Malice. Here we go. Touch of Malice is a strong weapon, but the usability of the gun was just too low in any content where it mattered. This is due in large part to how easily it was to unintentionally kill yourself. When we brought back Touch of Malice, we increased the amount of self-damage to the final round dealt to the user because there are far more ways to self-heal in Destiny 2 than there were when the gun originally made its appearance in Destiny 1. But we believe we have gone too far. To make it up to you, the final round now deals 20% additional damage in PvE. Additionally, we have reduced the damage it deals to the user, and it can no longer kill the user. Okay. This isn't to say that you can't die when you're at low health, but the weapon itself will not be the thing that kills you. It will just hold you at 1 hit point if you continue to fire it for too long. We also set up the Touch of Mercy perk to be a lot more useful and easier to activate, and we have fixed the Ball of Darkness to correctly deal arc damage, blinding PvE combatants. Increased final round damage in PvE by 20%. Decrease the self-damage from the final round from 10 to 7. Final round damage can no longer kill the user. Praise the Traveler, man. I mean, hey, I still haven't gotten Touch yet, but I remember back in D1, it's like, Touch is a gun. I think like a lot of exotics in Destiny, right? That you acquire, you say hooray, you might use it once or twice, and then it sits in your vault and collects dust. What are the exotics, whether it be armor pieces or guns, that have a thick layer of dust in your vault that you haven't even thought about or used in months, seasons, perhaps years? Let me know in the comments below, guys. Malfeasance. Malfeasance does a lot, and we wanted to make sure you knew when you were getting the effects of the catalyst. Fix an issue where the Vorpal weapon catalyst wasn't displaying the status buff text. Okay. Cloud Strike. Cloud Strike has been a very strong weapon flying under the radar for quite some time. Recently, it has become more prevalent by getting killed by the explosion because your semi-nearby teammate chose the wrong lane to peek feels bad. We want to maintain the exotic fantasy of the weapon and the core strength, but we felt the actual lethal distance itself could come down a bit. Players within the radius will still take damage, so in the hands of a skilled player, the weapon will be a highly effective tool, but now you'll be much likely to die if you aren't within a much smaller radius of your teammate when they got killed. Reduce the lethal kill distance of the lightning strike against players. Okay, so that's a straight up nerf to the Cloud Strike. You're not going to see anybody use it anymore. Wicked Implement. We took a conservative approach with this scout rifle out of the gate. We wanted to avoid creating a lousy experience for those on the receiving end of a long-range primary weapon with the ability to slow targets in PvP. Now that it's spent some time in the live game, we can give its intrinsic perk more uptime by making it easier to keep active. We also improved its utility by providing more opportunities to generate stasis shards. With Headstone added to the catalyst and the ability to create tracking shards from destroying stasis crystals, you can keep your mag full and your powered melee up more easily. Shard generation will continue to have a brief cooldown, as with all other shard sources. The timing window for creeping attrition has been increased from 3.5 to 4.5. You can now also active tithe, probably name it activated tithing hardest by destroying stasis crystals. Fantastic. The Wicked Implement exotic catalyst now also includes the Headstone perk. I love this weapon, man. I think this is one of the best exotics that they put out there. I'm a huge stasis aficionado. I still feel that stasis needs to get a little bit more oomph to bring it online, or bring it in line with how effective strand is. Stasis is strong, but I think it needs a little bit more TLC. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Perks, bipod. We were a little overcautious when we made this perk. We wanted to see how people were able to combine it with other perks and effects to the wild to improve their DPS. After reviewing, we believe we can safely reduce the damage penalty by a substantial amount. Reduce the damage penalty from 40 to 25%. I think that'll give it some more usage. I haven't used bipod at all, to be honest with you. But I'm looking forward to see what it's going to do, how it's going to play out in season 22. Definitely going to give it a go. Envious Assassin. This is already a strong perk, but the mental overhead of remembering to sway your weapon before the invisible time limit expired, combined with it no longer working once your magazine was overflowed by any amount, made it slightly less fun to use than it was originally intended. We made some changes that should retain all the strength of the perk, while also making it less cumbersome to utilize in combat. There is no longer a time limit after kills within which you must activate the perk or get another kill. That's fantastic. The perk will now activate if the magazine is overflowed. If you stop activating it once you hit maximum magazine size for 2.5 or greater. Enhanced Envious Assassin now provides functionality, more ammo per kill instead of a longer window of time to kill. Excellent. Under Over. Under Over was a little too niche for its own good. It was strong, but opportunities to utilize the perk were too few and far between. To address this, we have increased the already existing damage bonus and added 2 more. We hope that the perk can find more of a place in endgame PvE builds, particularly for activities which feature Dark Cabal and Lucent Moths. Now provides bonus body damage against players with Woven Mail. Increase the bonus damage against combatant shields. Deals significantly increased damage to enemies who are enhanced by Dark Cabal overshields, in addition to enemies shielded by Lucent Moths. Under Pressure. Under Pressure has long been a perk that offers a lot of upside reward for comparatively little risk in PvP, as it often triggers neutrally during combat and sees nearly 100% uptime on special ammo weapons. It is especially potent on fusion rifles. As such, we have reduced the maximum accuracy bonus that can be granted by Under Pressure, while allowing it to retain the full strength of the stability bonus. Reduce the maximum accuracy cone scaler from 0.5 to 0.75. Shoot the Loot. It seemed a shame that pairing Shoot the Loot with perks like Explosive Payload and Kinetic Tremors didn't allow the splash damage to interact with orb collecting, so we did some custom tuning behind the scenes to make it happen. We also removed an unintended interaction that allows Shoot the Loot to continuously grant ammo to overflowed magazines without actually consuming the ammo brick on the ground. No longer triggers the reload when shooting a special brick that could not be picked up, while also having an overflowed weapon equipped. Explosive damage now interacts with Orbs of Power. Okay. Valiant Charge. This perk now deactivates as intended after a single swing. Perk now deactivates after the initial sword swing. Ambush. There were certain unintended damage impulses that were causing the ambush origin trait to deactivate, so we excluded those from the list of potential triggers. No longer deactivates from healing, fall damage, or being shot by allies. explosive light. There's no more free explosive damage, but don't worry, there are more than enough orbs of power to go around. Fixed a bug where the enhanced version of the perk was granting 2 stacks on the initial orb pickup. Chill Clip. Chill Clip has been something of a must-have multi-tool and was a little too easy to deal with all 3 types of champions at once. We have made it slightly more difficult to get the full freeze effect, which should move it back to being closer in line with other perk options. Reduce the slow stacks from 60 to 40. Wolfpack rounds no longer trigger this perk. I mean, did Chill Clip really need to be touched? I don't know, man. I play with a lot of people, and it's not like everyone that I'm playing with is like running rampart with Chill Clip, you know? Is it strong? Is it effective? Yes. Is it overpowered to be adjusted? I don't think so. I think it just could be left alone. And this kind of feeds into, you know, let's give stasis a little bit more TLC. I think keeping Chill Clip where it's at is fine. So boo to the devs for adjusting Chill Clip. Sorry, but not sorry. To craft or not to craft, here's what's changing. And thanks again for sticking around. I know this is a very long read. I've already drinking like a gallon of water, breaking all this down. To craft or not to craft, here's what's changing. Weapon crafting is a large part of Destiny 2. With the new season on the horizon, we got a few things to look forward to, from changes to how weapon progression works, to overall crafting economic changes. Here's a brief overview of what types of changes are coming down the pipeline for Season 22. Weapon progression earning. What's changing? While Shirochi style weapon level farming is not ideal, instead of nerfing that type of behavior and taking the option away from players, we decided to buff the weapon level progression obtained through more meaningful methods like activity completions and PvP kills. We're also adding a currency-driven method of directly advancing a weapon's level. Thank you. Okay, like, as someone who has put videos out on the most effective and efficient way to level crafted weapons, okay, which is Shirochi, by the way, if you have the rally flag banners, okay? If for some reason your Destiny broke and you do not have rally banners, then there are other methods out there, most specifically the breakneck mission, which a lot of people heralded as being like the best, but if you actually do the math, it takes you longer than any other method that's out there. Okay, so don't believe the hype, ladies and gentlemen. But if you don't have banners, that would be the best for you, right? So that would make it the most efficient for those that are just Destiny broke and don't have banners. If you have rally banners, Shirochi, hands down, #1. But I digress. Going to Shirochi to level up your crafted weapons is completely boring and monotonous. There should be ways in the game to just play and use the weapon to take advantage of leveling up quickly. So you're not like forced to go to Shirochi if you just want to, you know, level up those crafted weapons and get them ready to go for enhancing everything. So hearing this, reading this is absolutely fantastic. Since the opportunity to get kills in PvP is far lower than what is possible in PvE, we will be increasing the amount of progression earned by defeating Guardians in PvP activities beginning with Season 22. Okay, they should increase it by like at least 50%. We're boosting activity completion progression across several activity types. Crucible, Trials of Osiris, Dares of Eternity, Wellspring, Gambit, Platinum score completions of Legend, and Master Solo Lost Sectors. We're also adding the capability of progress that exceeds the current level to roll over to the next level. Thank you, that's very important. This issue has been a prominent talking point when looking at crafting for a while because of the way the weapon level progression functions. Due to the necessity to store weapon level and progress on each individual weapon, the weapon leveling system could not be set up in a similar fashion to how the season pass level works or how character level worked in the past. The system we're currently using can be a bit fragile. Interesting choice of words, Bungie. It was a key part in the Revision 0 API mishaps that occurred in Season of the Seraph. Due to the risks and some technical gremlins, we deprioritized this work in favor of the deep site changes we made in Season 20 and 21. However, you'll finally be getting this rollover behavior in Season 22. As a result of this rollover change, weapon leveling through completing activities should see a large overall increase in efficacy, not just limited to the specific activity types we're explicitly modifying for Season 22. To round out the weapon progressive changes, we're also adding the capability to directly increase a weapon's level through currency expenditure. Crafted and enhanced weapons will both receive a new mod slot in their weapon details, where you can spend glimmer and enhancement cores to boost the level of the weapon. Yes! The mod will increase the weapon's level directly, leaving your existing progress towards the next level untouched. While there is no cap to how far you can boost the weapon's level to, the cost of this boosting will increase relative to the level of the weapon. I don't care. I have thousands of cores. Weapon usage is meant to be the main path for increasing a weapon's level. However, with the restrictions of how many weapons you can level at a time, and always increasing expansion to the amount of weapons that have a level, we wanted to provide an alternative method of leveling that allows for both the jump starting of a crafted weapon and also the ability to level a larger amount of weapons stockpiled in your inventory. We do not want the level boosting cost to feel prohibited. However, we don't want players to have to make choices over which weapons they want to boost. Again, praise the Traveler. This is like big brain development right here, man. Huge quality of life. No more just no more like crafting it to craft it, and then when I get to it, I'll get to it, or I don't feel like doing the monotonous Shiro Chi, or I don't feel like spending a day in the breakneck mission. Like, you know, it's with all the enhancement cores, like, hey, and I'll tell you straight up, like, I'm Destiny rich, man. Like, you know, just being an active player for so many years, I have copious amount of cores. And I'll tell you what, shame on you folks that have deleted your core stacks. I don't know why you would, because as Bungie has shown repeatedly in the past, they'll spring something on us, and all of a sudden a resource that you thought was just, you know, an inventory filler is now going to be useful. So big ups, devs. Thank you so much. Huge quality of life, guys. Again, let me know your thoughts on this. Are you excited as I am? Let me know in the comment sections below. Crafting economy changes. Another change we are making is that resonant and harmonic alloys will be deprecated as a required material. Okay, another change to this. And will no longer be obtained during a dismantle starting in Season 22. We are planning on removing these materials entirely from the game at some point in the future, but until then, your remaining materials must be available to be exchanged for glimmer at Rahul in the tower. Tell the troll hi for us. They don't say troll. Neomuna weapon pattern acquisition. This is a big one. While there have been modifications to the reward behavior of these weapons, the changes haven't had the desired impact, and the weapon patterns remain elusive, even for those that are highly engaged. you couldn't make a more truer statement in this blog, Bungie. In Season 22, we'll be making some additional changes to help tackle the scarcity problem. The Neomuna Weekly Pinnacle Story Mission Score Challenge will provide guaranteed Neomuna weapon pattern progress the first time it is completed each week. The Neomuna Vendor Engram upgrade will increase the drop chance of deep sight Neomuna weapons. This is retroactive if you have already claimed the vendor upgrade. The Throne World Vendor Engram upgrade will also receive the same behavior for the Throne World deep sight weapons, and again, this will be retroactive. Season 22 will also include a bug fix in the underlying deep sight drop system that manifested from the major overhaul we did for Lightfall. This bug could decrease the deep sight drop rate as you neared the completion of a pattern set. Although this deep sight bug on its own will normally have a low impact on deep sight behavior, the problem was exacerbated when coupled with a lack of deterministic deep sight sources for Neomuna weapons. Woo! While we believe crafting is more in line with our original vision since the launch of Witch Queen, we're still making necessary changes to the system and are in the middle of developing a large crafting related feature targeted for the final shape year. We'll provide more details about these upcoming changes after they spent a bit more time in the oven. We're excited to share more. And that's a wrap on our latest developer insights entry. We hope you enjoyed the information shared, and we can't wait to share even more of what's on the horizon with our showcase on August 22nd. And be sure to tune in to SloopGaming on August 22nd for the live viewing of the Bungie Final Shape Showcase. I'll bring snacks. For the love of the traveler. For the love of the traveler! They're quoting me, man. All right, I didn't make that up, but I say that if anybody knows me, I am always saying for the love of the traveler, man. Please send us those epic clips of Monte Carlo in action. We're very excited to see what sort of chaos ensues. Have any thoughts about what's being discussed thus far? Well, go to SloopGaming channel and comments below. Man, this was a long read. Thank you so much for hanging. Again, share your thoughts, share the vid, drop a like, do all that cool stuff. It goes a long way to support me. We're making great steps here, guys. Thank you so much. Be safe, stay vigilant, and as always, may the light protect us all. Thank you for watching. Likes and shares are very much appreciated, and subscribe for more Destiny 2 content. Peace.